Hello and welcome to our bookshop in Tring. I'm Ben Morehouse. So we've got another wonderful interview for our YouTube channel, and we're talking to an author who happens to live locally. Actually, it's Jules Wake. She's written the Saturday Morning Park Run, and she did all her research for this book at the Tring Park Run, as it happens. And I did manage to persuade her to be interviewed by her husband, which makes for an interesting dynamic. Do enjoy.
Thank you, Ben. Well, what a joy it is to do this. I'm really excited because right next door is my wife and author, Jules Wake. So lovely to have you on the show, Jules, and what a joy to have this little chat.
It's the first time you've spoken to me in days.
Excellent. So we're here to talk about your latest book, The Saturday Morning Park Run.
What is that, the book that you've read?
It is the book that I've read at long last. So tell us, a good place to start then, I guess, Jules, is where did the inspiration for the book come from?
I think my editor and I were chatting about the next book and trying to decide where we wanted to set it, and we knew that we wanted it in a park, and I knew that I wanted to talk about certain issues like loneliness and stress, and I just decided that a park running, I was used to running in Tring Park, and I just decided that this old lady on the park bench would be a runner, and that she would encourage other people to run as well, and it just snowballed from there. But the original idea was that the book was to be set in a park with and transgenerational, with an old lady befriending a younger lady, and that's where it started, and then it just got bigger and bigger.
But I guess would you ever have had the idea if you hadn't have been a park runner yourself, and what brought that about?
No, so it was inspired by the park run. So when I was thinking about the old lady and loneliness, I was reminded of the camaraderie at the Tring Park Run. So, I mean, from the very first time when we went together, I was blown away by how friendly and how welcoming it was. And I really wanted to capture that, and so that I could share it with other people. I mean, so many people in reviews have said, I'd never heard of the park run. And actually, before we went on that first park run, neither had we. A friend told us about it, and it'd been going on in Tring for quite some time. So I wanted to get that over to people and share that running's not scary. Going to your first park run won't be scary. It'd be a wonderful experience because people are so welcoming. And I really wanted to share that. And I think I've done that in the book.
Brilliant. So obviously, you know, there's a world of difference between taking part in the park run, as you and I have been doing for a while, and then actually writing a book with quite a lot of detail in it. How did you go about sort of researching the detail for the book?
So I spoke to the director, the race director. So for anyone who hasn't done a park run and doesn't know much about it, they're all run by volunteers, and there are over 600 park runs in the UK alone, let alone that it's a global phenomenon now. But each one is run purely by volunteers who are unpaid, who rock up every Saturday morning. And there's quite a big team of people. They're very conscious of health and safety. You have a race director who's in overall charge, and then a whole series of marshals and timekeepers. So that it's really, really well organised. That's one of the things that struck me. I mean, you rock up as a runner and you run for free, and you don't realise at first how much goes on behind the scenes. So I spoke to the race director, Andy Evans, and picked his brain one morning, and then other people that I knew, like Richard Murphy, I asked him questions, and then I volunteered, and I was a marshal once, and that's a really good way of finding out what goes on behind the scenes, because I was dispatched to one of the furthest points to be marshal, and I'd got a walkie-talkie and instructions and told what would happen if there was an accident and all that sort of thing. I mean, it's really well planned. So in my initial research, I just picked people's brains on the ground, but I also approached Park Run UK and spoke to one of their ambassadors for Hertfordshire, and she gave me some tips. And Parkrun also have lots and lots of blogs, and so they encourage people who want to set a parkrun up to do a lot of the work themselves, so they give you a lot of tools to do that. So I did all the research, and I spoke to a couple of people at Parkrun to get the basics, so that, but each park run is set up by someone who just decides they want to do it. It's not decided by park run, oh, we're going to set a park run up here. It's people saying, oh, we'd like to do a park run, how do we go about it? And they give you the tools to go off and do it. So it's very much a self-starter thing, which I think is why it's been so successful, because it's not just about setting up a park run, it's about being able to sustain it over the years. So I think Tring's just celebrated its 5th or 6th birthday, I'm not completely sure, but you've got to know that you can keep doing it year in, year out, and have all the volunteers in place that are going to do that.
Yeah. So I've watched you in action over many years now, writing books. And
I thought we were going to say running then. I haven't got any better.
And a bit of that as well. passing you downhill while you're coming up round about halfway. But the thing I noticed with you writing this particular book is you really seem to get in the flow, and you were actually enjoying it, whereas with some of the other books there have been moments where it's been a bit of a struggle, but with the Saturday morning park run, you just seem to really enjoy it. Why do you think that was?
I think I fell in love with my characters, so Hilda was very dear to me straight from day one. I'd ummed and ahed when I was thinking about writing about an older lady, and I was trying to decide whether I would make her quite cantankerous or bitter or outspoken, and I wanted her to say the things that we'd like to say sometimes but we're too polite to say, and I wanted her to have free rein, and that was really liberating because you could make her say the most outrageous things, which I did. And she's lived life, she's had lots of experiences, and I wanted to make her quite eccentric, so you never quite know whether she's telling the truth. I mean, she says that she's babysat for the Queen's corgis, she intimates that she was in MI5, she's had 4 husbands, one of whom we think might have been a duke or something, so she's got lots of stories to tell and larger than life. So it was a lot of fun writing that character. I really enjoyed her. And then it was really important to get over that camaraderie of the park run. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what it is. I mean, I'm not the best runner in the world, as you know only too well, but when I get out there, I really enjoy it. And I wanted to get that over to people like me who are not natural runners, not natural athletes, but when we actually force ourselves to get out there and do it, we do enjoy it. And I wanted to share that sense of achievement when you're running and your body's moving in rhythm, and you look out over, I mean, Tring Park is, when you get to the top, you've got this amazing view, and I always think, well, at that point, God, I'm glad to be alive. My body's working, everything's in tune. I'm so lucky to have all this. And I just wanted to get some of that in the book. So of course, I'm writing about the emotions that I feel as I'm running. So of course I'm happy, of course I'm enjoying it, because I'm sharing that joy when you've had a good run and your adrenaline's going, your endorphins are all pumped, and you think, yeah, I'm glad to be alive. So writing the book, I was sharing that joy. And that's why I think partly why I enjoyed it so much. Also, I had a very hot hero.
Well, we'll come back to him in a minute. Because I'm interested in that bit. But one of the things that struck me, so I've quite rightly received a fair amount of criticism from you and our friends for being very tardy in getting around to reading one of your books. But the thing that struck me was, yes, it's a romance, which isn't, my normal genre, hence my hesitation to read some of your books. Poor excuse, I know. But the thing that struck me about the Saturday morning park run is it deals with a lot of issues beyond romance. Do you want to just sort of explain some of the things that you do get into?
Yes, so I mean, romance is in all my books, but it's also about the journey between two characters, because a romance is about, it's not about two people falling in love when you're writing, it's about what stops them being together. And in this instance, I wanted to portray characters in modern life that are struggling with things like stress or depression, redundancy, and loneliness. So although it is a romance, it's also a story about three people and an unlikely friendship, and what brings them together. And I mean, Hilda, one of the main characters, is a real feisty character, but she's also desperately lonely.
Yeah.
She's in an old people's, or a care home. It's not an old people's home, and she's still quite sprightly. She's got all her marbles. I mean, she does run a mile every day, and she's surrounded by people in this home, but she doesn't feel she's got any connection with any of them. So she is lonely. So she goes to the park bench and she starts chatting to Claire, who Claire thinks she's got it all. She's got this fantastic job. She's absolutely winning at work, but she doesn't realise she's lonely as well. She's moved to a new town. She's got her dream home she wants to show off, but she doesn't have anyone to show it off to. The job's actually killing her. And the number of people in reviews said they really related to Claire, and that they were sort of racing away with their jobs and everything, and they weren't actually enjoying their life around it. They were sort of living to make money rather than making money to live. And I think that's quite true in a lot of society today. So that was an issue I wanted to explore with my main character, Claire. And also the fact that she was so busy, she didn't have time for romance. It wasn't a priority. And the same with the other main character, Ash. He's not got time. And when they first meet, you think, well, they're two of a kind. They're perfect for each other, but they're so hung up on their jobs that they haven't got time to explore that spark between them.
So yes, you mentioned Ash, which is a good prompt for the key question, obviously the romantic hero. I'm kind of obviously keen to understand where you draw your inspiration, Jules, for some of your characters.
They usually pop into my head fully formed, and for some reason Ash was Anglo-Indian from day one, and I think I wanted him to come from a background which was, so he came from a family of high achievers, and so for him, failure or losing his job was the absolute worst thing, and he just sort of fell into a spiral of not so much depression, but shame. He felt he couldn't tell anyone that he'd lost his
suffering
job.
from the weight of expectation.
Yes, because his brother's a barrister and his sister's a doctor, so I needed him to feel the shame of losing his job, which is quite common. You hear about men who don't actually admit to their wives that they've lost their jobs, and they go off in their suits every day and hide in a library or something. So I wanted to explore that within his character. I mean, some people spend hours researching characters and coming up with questions to ask them and interview them, and I don't do that. My characters just pop in my head fully formed.
So not based on real people, just your imagination largely.
Usually, I mean, certain elements of Hilda were based on my two grannies, one of whom was
definitely, I could see that.
One of them was extremely cantankerous and one of them was extremely kind-hearted. And I had a bit of a blend of both of them. But Claire, again, is completely made up. She's not based on anyone, although I did steal her name from one of my old colleagues.
Brilliant. So the book's doing well, both in terms of sales, but also the reviews have been really good. Of course, not every reviewer is going to say what you want to hear. How do you deal with it when a review's not so good?
Badly. No, I take it to heart sometimes, but you also need to think, well, it's the golden rule is reviews are written for readers, not the author. So you can't take it to heart. I mean, there are some people who are quite vitriolic and unkind when they don't need to be. But my favourite, and it wasn't really that negative a review, it was a 3-star, but below it, they'd given 1 star to Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of my favourite books of all time, and I think is absolutely brilliant. So I'd done better than Harper Lee, but above me, with a 5-star review, was an Addis bin, flip-top bin. So I was worse than a bin, but better than Harper Lee, and that just tickled me.
Yeah, absolutely. I can normally tell when you've had a bad review. I beat a hasty retreat then.
The thing about this book is some of the reviews have been fantastic. There's one where a lady actually says, I finished this book at 5:30, and by 5:45 I was out in the park going for my first run. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, does it?
It doesn't. That's brilliant. Fantastic. So the book, I think, is your 18th book, which is incredible to think. I still remember when you were working so hard on that very first book, and then you got your agent, and it all just sort of took off. Do you still get a kick from being described as a professional writer now?
Yeah, I still don't. I think I have imposter syndrome, so I still don't think I'm a proper author yet, but I'm getting there. But, I think that the real exciting thing is all the overseas deals that you get, which come out of the blue, and it's like, oh, Russia wants to publish one of my books, or Latvia wants to publish Park Run, which is interesting. My first book in Latvia, and they want Park Run, which is brilliant. So, yeah, I think I'm getting there. Maybe by the time I've published 30, I'll think of myself as a professional writer. So
when are you going to, base a book in, the Maldives or Bali or somewhere like that, Jules? And should I start packing my suitcase?
Yes, I'm not sure. They don't sell. That's the problem. People want cozy, so that's my Julie Kaplan books, and me and my editor discussed quite carefully where we're going to set the next one. Because the one that I set in the warm climate is probably the one that has not done as well as the others. People really like cozy, so I'm not sure whether we'll get to the Maldives. Sorry, babe.
I live in hope. So one of the things I'm conscious of is especially right now, it's been a bloody miserable year, hasn't it? Let's face it. And do you ever think that actually what you're doing is not really writing books, but selling escapism?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, people say quite often a criticism levelled at romance is, oh, it's so predictable. But I think in times like these, people want predictable. They want a happy outcome. They want to know that the end is going to be safe, and they'll get what they're expecting. And romance sales, I think, have gone up massively throughout the lockdown. I think thriller sales have as well. And a thriller is fairly predictable. You know the baddie's going to get caught in the end, and they'll find out who killed who. But funnily enough, no one ever says a thrill is predictable, but they always say it about romance. But yes, especially my Julie Kaplan books, which are set in other countries. I mean, lots of people have described it as armchair travel, and it takes them away. I've had lots of lovely comments about, oh, it was a real escape for me because I haven't been able to travel, but I've been to Japan this year, or I've been to Copenhagen. So yeah.
So what do you only write romance, or are there other genres that you're looking at?
Oh, there's a thriller ticking away at the back of my head. Did you not hear me tossing and turning last night?
Steady. Let's not go into too much detail.
No, I was thinking about how somebody was going to kill somebody and whether they would smother them, or whether I want them to kill them quite violently because they really don't like them, and take out all their resentment, which would be quite a violent attack, but then they'd be covered in blood and they'd have to dispose of the evidence because they've planned this murder quite carefully. So I was lying there thinking, should I smother someone or should I take a hammer to their skull?
I don't know why I'm feeling ever so slightly nervous now. I did sense your pillow moving in my direction at one point.
Yeah, So yeah, there's a thriller ticking away at the back of my head, but I'm writing a historical novel at the moment, so that's a complete departure. And there's still some romance in there, but it's more about friendships during wartime. So.
And what do you see that as? Is this you sort of experimenting, or just wanting to do something different, test yourself maybe?
No, it's always a story. It was just a story came to me, and I really wanted to tell it. I've got another book coming out on December the 11th, and again, that was just the story I wanted to tell. So I think I've got so many ideas. I think I'll be writing forever just to get them all out. But at the same time, you have to be aware that your editor wants something they can market. And luckily for me, World War II is a big thing at the minute. So I was able to write that one. But I've got a million ideas stashed at the back of my head.
I know. I can hear your brain whirring at night time as well sometimes. Yeah. Okay. So kind of got one eye on the clock. I think we're doing pretty well. But the key question that a lot of people tuning in might be interested in. So you're up to 18 books now. If somebody watching this, wants to write a novel, what would your advice be?
Get your bum in the seat every day. Write a prescribed number of words. Don't wait for the muse to come, because it will never arrive. You have to sit there and grind the words out. Read up as much as you can on the different techniques of writing. So there are key proponents, but read around the subject and read lots of books. I mean, when I first started, my storytelling was very instinctive, because I've read so much all my life. I've read. And so my very first book, although it took me a long time to get it published, I had to polish things, but the actual story structure was there. And that didn't need an awful lot of altering. And that's because I understood, having read so much, what a story entails, what the arc of a story is. So you've got to have your beginning, middle and end, but what beat points you've got to have within that. So I would say I'm a natural storyteller because I've read so much. So that's absolutely key to understand how to tell a story. There are lots and lots of books and articles, and there's so much free stuff, free resources on the web. I take advantage of that. And the biggest thing I'd say is go and find a writers group or join an online writers group, because you get so much back from other writers who give you feedback and ideas and sources. And writers help each other. They're not precious about it. I've introduced friends to my editor. People have introduced me to people. The writing community is incredibly supportive, especially with social media. Something like Twitter is amazing for writers. So those just a few of the things you can do. But yeah, find your writing tribe.
The thing I've noticed there as well is be prepared to work hard. I do take my hat off to you, your discipline, in terms of just sort of sitting down each day and cracking out that required number of words, and it's a job. You work hard at it. It has not come easily. So I would be saying, don't think bashing out a book is easy, because it isn't.
No, I mean, actually bashing out the first draft is I'd say that's only a quarter of the work, because you write the first draft and then you have to go back over it, and then you send it off to your agent, who gives you some suggestions, and then you relook at it again, and then you send it off to your editor. And sometimes, I mean, Park Run, I'll be completely honest, was a very different book to start with until my editor got hold of it, and she said it's a bit depressing, and I felt worried all the way through because I'd got other things going on when I first wrote it. And in actual fact, I rewrote most of that book following her comments, what we call structural edits. I probably wrote that book twice, but the second version was so much better through her having those comments. So, and that's quite common in the editing process, that you will have to write a good good another 20,000 words, 30,000 words. Every book's different, so there's always more work to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Saturday morning park run, I've got to say, not only did I enjoy it, I really did enjoy it. I was also super impressed and proud that my wife could produce this book. So my understanding is it's available in our bookshop in Tring. Ben's got some signed copies, make a great little stocking filler for you. So do pop along and get your copy from our bookshop in Tring. And Jules, thank you. What a nice chat we've had. What a pleasure it's been. And I think you've earned a cup of tea.
Yes. Are you going to make it for me?
I am going to make it for you. So lovely. Thanks very much. And with that, let's pass back to Ben.
Massive thanks to Jules and to her husband Nick for that wonderful interview. So Saturday morning park run is available in our bookshop. Give us a call on 01442 827 653. All the other purchase blurb is available in the text below this video. Thanks so much for joining us. There's so much more to come, and we'll see you soon.